Steve Harvey was used to being the center of attention. For decades, he had entertained millions of people with his jokes, his charm, and his honesty. He had hosted game shows, talk shows, and live events, and through it all, he had learned to keep a smile on his face no matter what was happening behind the scenes. But on this particular day, something unusual happened, something that would make him stop and reflect in a way he hadn't in a long time. It started early in the morning. Steve was going through his usual routine, reading scripts, checking messages, and preparing for the live show later that day. Even someone as experienced as him had moments when the pressure of performing live could feel overwhelming. He had a full day ahead with interviews, skits, and interactions with his audience, and he wanted everything to go perfectly. But just as he was about to take a sip of his coffee, a message popped up on his phone that made him pause. The message was from someone unexpected: Keanu Reeves. Yes, Keanu Reeves, the quiet, humble, and world-famous actor known for his kindness and thoughtful nature. Steve had met Keanu a few times before at events and charity gatherings, but they had never been close friends. Seeing his name on the screen was surprising enough, but what really caught Steve off guard was the tone of the message. It wasn't just a quick hello or a casual note. It was heartfelt, personal, and meant for him alone. Steve stared at the video for a few moments, his usual energy replaced by curiosity and disbelief. He pressed play, and Keanu's calm, gentle voice filled the small space around him. He spoke about life, about challenges, and about the importance of appreciating the people who make a difference in the world. He mentioned Steve by name, acknowledging his work on television and how much positivity he brought to people's lives. The words weren't just compliments. They were sincere observations from someone who truly respected him. Steve couldn't help but smile as he listened. He had spent so many years making people laugh, but rarely had someone from his own world, someone he admired so much, spoken to him in a way that touched his heart so deeply. For a moment, he forgot about the cameras, the scripts, and the busy day ahead. He felt something that didn't happen often in his life: pure, genuine appreciation. As he replayed the message, Steve thought about how unexpected gestures like this could affect someone. He realized that even though he often inspired others, he too could be inspired by simple acts of kindness. The timing of the message seemed almost perfect. He had been feeling tired and stretched thin, and yet this short video had reminded him of why he did what he did. It reminded him that beyond the jokes and the entertainment, his work mattered. Despite his excitement, Steve knew he had to focus on the show. He put the phone down and started his usual pre-show routine, but his mind kept wandering back to Keanu's words. He thought about the message over and over, analyzing each sentence and feeling the emotion behind it. He even laughed softly to himself, realizing how rare it was for someone to take the time to genuinely acknowledge another person's efforts when it was finally time to go on air. Steve carried that feeling with him. He felt a little lighter, a little more grateful, and strangely more connected to the world around him. The energy that often came from the audience now had a new source. It came from knowing that someone he respected and admired had seen his work and had taken the time to send a message just for him, on stage. Steve began with his usual jokes and banter. He greeted the audience with his signature enthusiasm, and for a while everything seemed normal. But deep down, he was holding a little secret, a piece of magic that he wasn't ready to share just yet. That magic came in the form of a simple message, a few minutes long, that had the power to change the tone of his entire day. As the cameras rolled, Steve thought about how messages like this could change lives. He remembered times when he had felt unappreciated or unnoticed, and he realized that Keanu's message was a reminder of something important. No matter how busy or successful someone becomes, small gestures of kindness still matter. They matter a lot. They can lift spirits, inspire confidence, and make a person feel seen. Even before he revealed the message to the world, Steve felt a quiet transformation happening inside him. He felt more reflective, more in touch with his own feelings, and more aware of how much a simple act could mean. He also felt a sense of responsibility. Messages like this, when shared, could inspire others to be kind too. It wasn't just about him, it was about creating a ripple effect of positivity and human connection. Backstage, Steve couldn't help but smile again as he thought about Keanu. He remembered stories he had heard about the actor, how people in Hollywood admired him not just for his talent, but for his humility and kindness. Now, Steve had experienced that firsthand. And in that moment, he felt grateful not only for the message, but for the reminder that even celebrities, no matter how famous or distant, were still human beings capable of generosity and warmth. As he prepared for the first segment of the show, Steve quietly decided that he would share the message with his audience. He knew it would be emotional, but he also knew it was worth it. He wanted the viewers to understand that even small acts of appreciation could have a huge impact. He wanted them to see that behind the jokes and the laughter, he was just like anyone else, someone who could be touched, inspired, and even moved to tears. Finally, the moment arrived. The cameras were live, the audience was buzzing, and Steve stepped onto the stage with his usual confidence. But inside, he carried a quiet excitement and anticipation. He had something to share, something real and meaningful, something that went beyond entertainment. He knew that revealing this message would not only touch his own heart, but also the hearts of millions of people watching at home. And with that, the first part of this unforgettable story came to life. A simple video, a few words of kindness, and a quiet act of human connection had set the stage for an emotional journey that would soon capture the attention of the world. For Steve Harvey, it was a reminder that even in a life filled with laughter and applause, moments of true emotion and sincerity were the ones that mattered most. Even though Steve Harvey had seen the message from Keanu Reeves earlier, he wasn't fully prepared for how it would affect him on air. As the cameras rolled and the live show began, he tried to start with his usual energy, the humor, the jokes, the lively banter with the audience. That was Steve's comfort zone. Making people laugh, keeping the show entertaining, that was what he had done for years. But today felt different. Today, his heart carried something heavier, deeper, and unexpected. It began with a simple moment. While talking to the audience, Steve mentioned how much he appreciated the people who made a difference in his life, those who inspired him and those who quietly encouraged him along the way. He didn't plan to bring up the message right away, but as he spoke, the words began to catch in his throat. The room felt warmer somehow, and the audience seemed to sense that something meaningful was about to happen. Steve tried to shake it off with a laugh, but the warmth in his chest wouldn't go away. He thought about the video again, the calm voice of Keanu Reeves, the kindness behind every word, and the way it made him feel truly seen. Steve had spent years on television, appearing cheerful and confident no matter what he felt inside. He had been a comedian, a host, a mentor to millions, and yet he rarely allowed himself to show vulnerability on camera. But this time, the feeling was too strong. The words weren't just compliments. They were a reminder of the value of his work, of the effort he put into lifting others up. As Steve began talking to the audience about kindness and appreciation, his voice started to change. It was softer, more reflective, and a little shaky. The audience noticed immediately that this wasn't the usual Steve Harvey banter. There was a pause in the laughter, a quiet curiosity in the room. People leaned in a little closer, sensing that something real was happening. For Steve, the moment was both powerful and fragile. He was experiencing a deep emotion, and he wanted to honor it honestly. Slowly, he started telling the story of the unexpected message. He explained how he had received a video from Keanu Reeves, how the actor had taken the time to speak directly to him, and how deeply it had touched his heart. As he spoke, he tried to maintain composure, but the emotion kept surfacing. His eyes glistened, his voice occasionally faltered, and for a few moments, the humor and jokes of the show fell away. The audience watched, captivated, as Steve Harvey, usually the symbol of confidence and laughter, became a man showing his true feelings. It wasn't just about being moved by someone famous. Steve felt a deeper connection to what the message represented. It was about human kindness, about recognizing the good in others, and about understanding that even small gestures could have a huge impact. He realized that for all the times he had inspired people through his work, he too could be inspired. That realization made the moment more intense and more beautiful. As the audience listened, many began to feel the emotion themselves. They could see the sincerity in Steve's eyes, the honesty in his voice, and the genuine gratitude in his expressions. It was a rare thing to witness a man of public stature showing vulnerability, proving that even someone as strong and confident as Steve could be moved by words that came straight from the heart. People in the audience whispered to each other, some wiped their eyes, and others simply sat quietly, absorbing the emotional atmosphere. Steve tried to explain why the message had affected him so deeply. He said that life in the spotlight could often feel isolating, even when surrounded by people. For years, he had worked hard to entertain, to mentor, and to inspire, but moments of genuine acknowledgement were rare. Hearing someone like Keanu Reeves, someone who had achieved so much and yet remained humble, take the time to send him a personal message, made Steve feel understood in a way he rarely experienced. He also spoke about the responsibility that comes with being a public figure. Steve knew that millions watched his every move, and he often felt pressure to maintain a certain image. But in this moment, he realized that showing authenticity could be just as powerful as performing perfectly. The tears, the pauses, and the quiet emotion were not signs of weakness, they were signs of humanity. And humanity, Steve thought, was something everyone could relate to, whether they were famous or not. As the story continued, Steve allowed himself to laugh softly at a small joke Keanu had made in the video. The combination of humor and heartfelt words created a perfect mix of emotions. The audience laughed, then felt quiet again, then laughed softly once more. It was a roller coaster of feeling, but it was real. And real moments like this were what made live television so special. Steve paused and looked out at the audience. He wanted to make one point very clear, that moments of kindness and sincerity, no matter how small, could make a lasting difference. He encouraged everyone listening to think about the people in their lives who lifted them up, who encouraged them, and who reminded them of their worth. The audience nodded, some smiling, some holding back tears, as they reflected on their own experiences of being recognized or supported. By the middle of the show, Steve had fully embraced the emotional journey. He stopped trying to hide his reaction and allowed the feeling to flow naturally. The tears came freely now, mixed with smiles and laughter. He shared anecdotes from his life where small gestures had meant the world to him, times when someone had offered encouragement, a kind word, or a moment of understanding. Each story resonated with the viewers, because it was not just about celebrity life, it was about life itself. Even in those moments, Steve never lost sight of the positive message. He reminded everyone that it was okay to be emotional, that it was okay to show vulnerability, and that doing so could strengthen connections between people. The audience responded with applause, cheers, and heartfelt reactions, showing that they valued this side of him as much as his humor and charisma. As the show drew to a short break, Steve took a deep breath. He looked down at his hands, still slightly shaking from the emotion, and thought about how this experience would stay with him forever. A simple video message had transformed the tone of his entire day, reminding him of the beauty of human connection and the power of heartfelt words. Backstage, Steve reflected quietly. He thought about Keanu Reeves, the thoughtfulness of the gesture, and the ripple effect it could have. How many people watching might be inspired to reach out to someone they care about? How many might be encouraged to express gratitude or kindness? Steve realized that this moment was bigger than him. Bigger than the show, it was a reminder of what truly mattered in life: connection, empathy, and the courage to show your feelings. When the cameras came back for the next segment, Steve was ready. He had shared part of the story, revealed part of the emotion, and allowed himself to be human on live television. The audience could see it, feel it, and respond to it. And even though he was a comedian and a public figure, Steve Harvey had become something more that day, a reminder that genuine emotion is powerful, that kindness can inspire, and that it's okay to let yourself feel deeply, even in front of millions of people. By the end of part 2, viewers were not just entertained, they were touched. They saw a man they thought they knew in a new light, and they felt the importance of the message he had received. It was the kind of moment that stayed with people long after the camera stopped rolling. The kind of moment that reminded everyone watching that even small acts of love and recognition could create unforgettable change. Steve Harvey took a deep breath. After sharing his emotional reaction to Keanu Reeves' message, he knew it was time to take the next step. The audience had already sensed something special, but he wanted them to experience it fully. He wanted to show the video itself, to let everyone witness the heartfelt words that had touched him so deeply. It wasn't just about him, it was about sharing a moment of genuine, human connection with the world. He looked into the camera and smiled, though it was a soft, thoughtful smile rather than his usual wide grin. He told the audience that there was something he wanted to share, something that had truly moved him. There was a pause, a quiet moment in the studio as everyone leaned in, curious about what would come next. The energy in the room changed. Laughter and chatter quieted, replaced by a sense of anticipation. People could feel that this was going to be different from any other moment on the show. Then Steve pressed play. The video filled the studio screen, and Keanu Reeves' calm, kind voice echoed through the room. Steve could see the sincerity in every word Keanu spoke. He talked about life, about challenges, and about the importance of staying true to yourself while lifting others along the way. But the most powerful part was how personal it felt. Keanu mentioned Steve by name, acknowledging the years he had spent making people laugh, inspiring hope, and giving advice to countless viewers. It was a recognition that went beyond fame. It was recognition of effort, intention, and heart. Steve couldn't help but feel tears welling up again as the video played. He glanced at the audience, noticing that many were visibly moved too. Some wiped their eyes, others leaned forward, captivated by the raw honesty of the moment. There was no script, no performance, just two human beings connecting across distance and experience, one offering a simple gesture of kindness, the other receiving it in full. For Steve, the moment was overwhelming. He realized that so often in life people only share accomplishments, jokes, or entertaining highlights. But here was something real, something that reminded him why he had chosen this path in the first place. His work had always been about more than laughter. It had been about connection, about touching lives in a meaningful way. And now, someone he respected deeply was acknowledging that effort in the most sincere way possible. As Keanu's words continued, Steve found himself nodding along. Every sentence seemed to resonate with a personal experience, a lesson learned, or a challenge overcome. Keanu spoke about staying humble, being kind, and never underestimating the power of encouragement. He reminded Steve that even small gestures of support could have a ripple effect, changing lives in ways that are often invisible at first. For Steve, hearing this from someone who had faced his own challenges and maintained a quiet dignity was profoundly moving. The audience's reaction mirrored Steve's feelings. There was a sense of shared emotion, a collective understanding that they were witnessing something rare. People began to clap softly, some cheering, some just quietly absorbing the moment. It was one of those times when the energy in the room felt tangible, a mixture of awe, respect, and emotional connection. Everyone could feel that this was not staged or rehearsed. It was simply real. Steve looked back at the screen, listening closely to every word. He remembered how isolated fame could sometimes feel. Despite being surrounded by people daily, there were moments when recognition and genuine acknowledgement were rare. This video reminded him that even public figures are human, with feelings, insecurities, and the need to be seen and appreciated. It was a reminder that everyone, no matter how successful, values sincerity above all else. When the video ended, Steve remained silent for a few seconds, letting the impact settle. He turned to the audience, his eyes slightly moist, and said, "That right there. That's what I needed to hear today. It reminded me why we keep going, why we keep trying, and why we try to lift each other up every chance we get." His voice was quiet but strong, carrying the weight of his emotions without a hint of pretense. The audience erupted in applause, not just for Steve, but for the sentiment of the moment. They understood that what they had just witnessed was a genuine connection between two people who had achieved so much, yet remained grounded in kindness and humility. Some viewers even whispered to those beside them, talking about how rare it was to see a public figure show such authenticity. Steve continued to share his thoughts, reflecting on how important moments like these are in life. He talked about how easy it is to focus on the negative, on competition, or on what's missing, instead of appreciating what we have and the people who support us. He reminded everyone that gestures of kindness don't need to be grand. Even a few sincere words can change someone's day, their outlook, or even their life. He recalled his own experiences, moments where a kind word or supportive action had lifted him when he least expected it. He remembered mentors, friends, and even strangers who had made a difference, showing him that encouragement could come from anywhere. Now, he realized he was experiencing that same feeling from someone he admired, someone whose life seemed distant and untouchable, yet who had reached across that distance with something deeply human. As Steve spoke, the audience felt inspired. They weren't just watching a story, they were part of it. They felt the emotional weight, the joy, and the humility of the moment. Parents in the crowd thought about teaching their children the value of kindness. Young viewers reflected on how they could support their friends or peers. Everyone, in some way, felt the ripple effect of Keanu's words through Steve. Steve paused for a moment, letting the applause die down. He took another deep breath and smiled softly. "I want you all to know," he said, "that moments like these remind us that being human is beautiful. It's okay to feel, to be moved, and to let yourself be touched by someone's kindness. It's not weakness, it's connection." He then shared how the message had changed his perspective on the day. What could have been just another ordinary episode had become extraordinary. He realized that it wasn't just the content of the show, the jokes, or the interviews that mattered. It was the authenticity, the shared experiences, and the emotional honesty that made a lasting impression. Steve encouraged the audience to take a moment to appreciate the people in their own lives, to think about who has supported them, who has lifted them up, and who deserves a simple thank you. He spoke with sincerity, making sure his words reached everyone watching at home as well. It was a rare teaching moment disguised as entertainment, blending laughter, reflection, and heartfelt emotion. By the end of the segment, the mood in the studio had shifted completely. People felt lighter, more thoughtful, and more inspired to be kind themselves. Steve had successfully shared not just a message, but an experience. One that reminded everyone watching that even small gestures of encouragement can have a huge impact. After the cameras cut for a brief commercial break, Steve remained backstage, reflecting on the moment. He replayed the video in his mind, thought about Keanu's words, and smiled quietly. He realized that life sometimes gives you reminders in unexpected ways, little nudges that reconnect you with what truly matters. That video was one of those nudges, a moment that would stay with him long after the show ended. Steve knew that sharing it with the audience had amplified the impact. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about every person watching who could learn from the message, be inspired to act with kindness, or simply feel the warmth of human connection. He understood more than ever that authenticity and emotion resonate far more deeply than jokes or scripted lines ever could. As the audience returned from the break, Steve felt ready to continue the show with renewed energy. Not just energy for laughter, but energy for connection, for reflection, and for the human side of entertainment. He realized that this day, this message, and this emotional journey were going to be remembered not just by him, but by everyone who had witnessed it. And so, Part 3 ended with Steve Harvey sharing a powerful truth, that heartfelt words, genuine gestures and moments of vulnerability can bridge gaps, touch hearts, and remind us all of what it means to be human. The audience left the studio inspired, and viewers at home felt the same way, knowing they had witnessed something rare, beautiful, and unforgettable. The moment Steve Harvey shared Keanu Reeves' message on live television didn't just stay in the studio. Almost immediately, it began to ripple far beyond the cameras, reaching millions of people across the world. Social media lit up with clips of Steve's emotional reaction, and viewers everywhere were captivated by something rare and authentic, moment of human connection between two people in the public eye. It was not just entertainment. It was a story about kindness, empathy, and the unexpected power of heartfelt words. Within hours, clips from the show started trending on every major platform. People shared the video with captions like, "This made me cry," or "We all need more kindness like this." The combination of Steve's heartfelt reaction and Keanu's gentle, sincere words resonated deeply with viewers. For many, it wasn't about the fame of either man, it was about seeing real human emotions, vulnerability, and respect shared publicly. People connected with it because it reminded them of their own experiences, of times when someone's words had lifted them up or made them feel truly seen. Steve's fans immediately began commenting online, sharing personal stories of how they had been encouraged by someone in their life, or how they had quietly supported someone else. The story sparked conversations about empathy, kindness, and the impact of small gestures. Suddenly, it wasn't just a television moment, it became a cultural moment. Teachers, parents, friends, and even strangers began talking about the importance of expressing gratitude and encouragement in everyday life. News outlets quickly picked up the story as well. Headlines celebrated the unexpected interaction between two famous figures, emphasizing not just the surprise of Keanu sending a message to Steve, but the emotional honesty Steve displayed on air. Interviews followed, and reporters explored how moments like this can humanize celebrities, showing audiences that they, too, feel, reflect, and are deeply moved by acts of kindness. Steve, known for his humor and wit, became a symbol of authenticity, showing millions that it's okay to be emotional and vulnerable. As the story spread, many people commented on how rare it is to see public figures express genuine emotion. In a world where social media often highlights achievements, glamour, or controversy, this moment stood out. It reminded viewers that behind fame and public appearances, there are real people with real feelings, and that recognizing the humanity in others is powerful. Steve's tears, smiles, and thoughtful reflections became a symbol of the beauty and openness and sincerity. The impact didn't stop with casual viewers. Other celebrities and public figures shared their admiration as well. Some praised Steve for showing his vulnerability, while others highlighted Keanu's kindness. Many reflected on their own experiences of receiving or giving encouragement, recognizing the importance of taking a moment to uplift others. The story created a chain reaction of positivity, inspiring people to express gratitude in their own circles, whether to family members, friends, co-workers, or even strangers. Steve himself noticed the effect almost immediately. Messages from fans poured in through email, social media, and letters, thanking him for being honest and authentic on air. People shared how watching his reaction had moved them to reach out to someone they cared about, apologize, or simply say thank you. The show, which was usually focused on entertainment and humor, had become a platform for spreading a larger message. The power of human connection and empathy. It was clear that what made the moment so powerful was the authenticity of both men. Keanu Reeves, often known for his quiet demeanor and humility, had taken a moment out of his busy life to speak genuinely to someone he respected. Steve Harvey, despite being a world-famous entertainer, had responded with complete sincerity, showing that he, too, could be touched, inspired, and emotionally moved. The exchange reminded people that acts of kindness don't need to be large or public. They just need to be genuine, even outside of social media. People felt the influence. Viewers shared the story with friends at work, discussed it in classrooms, and reflected on it during family dinners. Some were inspired to write letters of appreciation to people in their own lives. Others thought about the ways in which they could support those around them, realizing that a few kind words can have a far-reaching effect. The story had become more than entertainment. It was a lesson in empathy, human decency, and the importance of expressing genuine emotion. Steve himself reflected on the moment as he reviewed feedback from viewers. He realized that the impact went far beyond his expectations. It wasn't just about a single show or a viral clip. It was about inspiring people to connect, to care, and to acknowledge one another. That realization made the experience even more meaningful for him. He understood that sharing vulnerability and showing genuine reaction wasn't a weakness. It was a way to teach, connect, and encourage others to do the same. The story also reminded people that emotional moments can be powerful without being dramatic or exaggerated. Steve hadn't staged his reaction or forced emotion for the cameras. He simply allowed himself to be human, and the world responded. Keanu's thoughtful words had unlocked a moment of authenticity that resonated far beyond the studio, showing that sincerity is universal and timeless. Social media, news outlets, and fans continued to celebrate the moment for days. People highlighted how it made them feel hopeful, reminding them that even small gestures of kindness can create meaningful change. For many, it was a reminder that we all have the ability to lift each other up, whether through words, actions, or simply listening and acknowledging someone's efforts. The story transcended the world of celebrity. It became a lesson in compassion and connection. Steve also noticed how the moment encouraged conversations about mental health and emotional honesty. Many fans shared how seeing someone like him express feelings openly inspired them to be more honest about their own emotions. They reflected on how often society pressures people to hide vulnerability, and how moments like this can help normalize emotional openness. The impact wasn't just fleeting, it sparked thought, discussion, and reflection. For Steve, knowing the story had touched so many people made the experience even more profound. He realized that the simple act of sharing Keanu's message and responding with honesty had created a ripple effect. Millions of people, in their own ways, were encouraged to be kinder, more understanding, and more connected. It wasn't just a story about celebrities. It was a story about humanity, empathy, and the importance of authentic connection. As the days went on, Steve received personal messages from viewers who said the moment changed their perspective on kindness. Some said they reached out to family members they hadn't spoken to in years. Others said they decided to compliment or support colleagues, friends, or neighbors in ways they hadn't thought to before. The story had sparked action, proving that genuine human emotion can inspire people to do meaningful things. In interviews following the show, Steve spoke openly about how much the moment had meant to him. He emphasized that it wasn't about the fame or recognition, it was about connection. He wanted people to understand that moments of kindness, sincerity, and emotional honesty could have a profound impact. Sharing vulnerability, he said, isn't weakness, it's humanity. Keanu Reeves' message, combined with Steve's emotional reaction, became more than just a viral moment. It was a lesson in empathy, a reminder of the power of human connection, and an example of how genuine gestures can inspire millions. People everywhere were reminded that life is full of opportunities to lift each other up, to offer support, and to express appreciation even through small, simple words. In the end, Part 4 showed that the impact of a single act of kindness can reach far beyond what anyone imagines. It proved that when people are authentic, vulnerable, and sincere, they can touch hearts in ways that entertainment, fame, or talent alone cannot. Steve Harvey's tearful, honest reaction to Keanu Reeves' heartfelt message reminded the world that even small gestures of care can create a ripple effect, inspiring others to act with kindness, empathy, and understanding. This story, already spreading across social media and news platforms, had become a symbol of hope. It reminded people that no matter how busy, distant, or different someone may seem, kindness and sincerity have the power to connect us all. Steve Harvey's emotional moment on live television had proven that real human emotion is contagious, and that sometimes the simplest gestures can leave the deepest impressions. By the end of Part 4, it was clear that this was not just a television segment, it was a shared human experience. Millions had seen, felt, and been inspired by it. The story of a heartfelt message from Keanu Reeves and Steve Harvey's authentic reaction had become more than just entertainment. It had become a reminder of what it truly means to be human, to care for one another, and to lift others through empathy and kindness. After the excitement of the show and the viral moment that followed, Steve Harvey had some quiet time to reflect on what had happened. The cameras were off, the audience had gone home, and the noise of social media and news coverage was still buzzing. But Steve found a peaceful moment backstage to think. He realized that the experience was more than just an emotional moment on live television. It was a life lesson that would stay with him forever. He thought about how unusual it was for a person like him, who had been in the public eye for decades, to have a moment of vulnerability shared with millions of viewers. He had always known that laughter and entertainment could bring joy, but this moment had taught him that sincerity and emotional honesty could create an even deeper connection. The tears he had shed on air, the pause in his jokes, and the heartfelt reaction to Keanu Reeves' message had all come from a real place, a place he rarely allowed himself to access on camera. Steve reflected on the power of genuine gestures. Keanu Reeves' message had been short, simple, and direct, but it had touched Steve profoundly. It reminded him that no matter how successful someone becomes, everyone is affected by kindness. Even someone as busy and accomplished as Keanu had taken the time to reach out, and that small act had a tremendous impact. Steve realized that this was a reminder of the importance of paying attention to others, recognizing their efforts, and expressing gratitude whenever possible. He also thought about how much courage it took to share that moment with the audience. On live television, there is always pressure to maintain a persona, to entertain, and to keep the show moving smoothly. Allowing himself to be emotional even for a few minutes was not easy. But Steve now understood that authenticity resonates far more deeply than perfection. By showing his feelings, he had connected with viewers on a human level, and the response had been overwhelming. People were moved, inspired, and reminded of the importance of empathy. As he looked back at the feedback from fans, Steve noticed a pattern. Many viewers wrote that they had been inspired to reach out to someone in their own lives, to say thank you, to offer encouragement, or to simply share a kind word. Some admitted that watching him cry on television made them feel comfortable expressing their own emotions. Parents said it reminded them to talk more openly with their children. Friends shared stories of reconnecting after years of silence. Steve realized that the impact of that single moment went far beyond the studio. It had created a ripple effect of kindness and connection. Steve thought about the lessons he could carry forward from this experience. First, he understood that no one is invincible. Everyone has emotions, insecurities, and moments of doubt, and acknowledging them is not a weakness. In fact, sharing feelings honestly can inspire others, strengthen relationships, and make life richer. Second, he realized that small gestures matter. Keanu's message had been brief, but the sincerity behind it made it monumental. It reminded Steve that acts of kindness don't have to be grand or public, they just have to be genuine. He also considered the broader meaning of the moment. Life in the public eye often feels like it's about appearances, ratings, and success. But this moment had reminded him that the things that truly matter are human connection, empathy, and the impact we have on each other. Laughter and entertainment are valuable, yes, but they are even more powerful when paired with honesty, humility, and understanding. Steve felt grateful that he had been reminded of this in such a profound way. The experience also encouraged Steve to be more intentional in his own actions. He decided he wanted to make kindness and encouragement a bigger part of his daily life, not just for his audience, but for the people around him, friends, family, colleagues, and strangers alike. He realized that sharing heartfelt messages, expressing appreciation, and lifting others up doesn't require fame or a platform. Anyone can do it, and the impact can be life-changing. Steve reflected on his own journey in the entertainment world. He had faced challenges, setbacks, and criticism over the years, yet he had also experienced moments of joy, recognition, and success. Keanu's message reminded him that amidst the highs and lows, the constant thread was human connection. Every laugh he had shared, every story he had told, and every life he had touched mattered, not just for entertainment, but for the positive impact it could have on others. He also thought about the importance of gratitude. Receiving a message like Keanu's made him realize how important it is to acknowledge and appreciate the people who make a difference in our lives. Gratitude, he reflected, is a gift that goes both ways. By recognizing the contributions of others, we encourage them, and in return, we create deeper connections that bring joy and meaning. Steve felt motivated to express gratitude more openly, both publicly and privately. Knowing how powerful it could be, the experience had also changed the way Steve thought about vulnerability. For someone constantly in the public eye, vulnerability can feel risky. People expect confidence, humor, and performance, But showing true emotion, he realized, can break down barriers, build trust, and inspire others to do the same. By allowing himself to be touched by Keanu's message and sharing it with the world, he had demonstrated the value of authenticity. He had shown that it's okay to be human even on a live stage. With millions watching, Steve knew that this moment would stay with him for the rest of his life. It wasn't just a memory of a message from a celebrity or a viral clip. It was a reminder of why he does what he does, and why human connection is so important. He felt proud that he had allowed himself to feel, to be touched, and to share that emotion with the world. The response from viewers, fans, and other public figures confirmed that authenticity has a power that reaches far beyond entertainment. He thought about the lessons viewers could take from this moment. First, it's important to show appreciation and kindness whenever possible. Second, it's okay to express emotion and vulnerability. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Third, small gestures can have enormous impacts. And finally, genuine connection is more valuable than fame, success, or applause. Steve realized that by living these lessons, he could continue to inspire and uplift others, not just through his work, but through his actions and words every day. Reflecting on the viral response, Steve felt a sense of fulfillment. Millions had witnessed something authentic, and many had been inspired to act with kindness themselves. That, he thought, was the real reward, not the likes, shares, or media coverage, but the small ways people were changing their behavior because of the lesson they had seen on television. It reinforced his belief that television and media could be more than entertainment. They could be platforms for spreading humanity, empathy, and positive change. Steve also realized that this experience was a reminder to cherish the moments of connection we encounter every day. Life can be busy, noisy, and overwhelming, but taking the time to acknowledge others, offer encouragement, and express gratitude can make all the difference. For him, Keanu's message had been a wake-up call, a reminder that even small words, shared at the right moment, could carry enormous weight. As he prepared for the next show, Steve felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was determined to carry this lesson into every aspect of his life, on stage, backstage, and off-camera. He knew that the power of kindness, emotional honesty, and human connection was limitless. By embracing these values, he could continue to inspire, uplift, and touch lives in ways that mattered far more than ratings or applause. In the end, Steve understood that this moment was not just about him or Keanu Reeves. It was about everyone who had been inspired to be more compassionate, more understanding, and more human. The message had created a ripple effect, spreading empathy, encouraging reflection, and reminding people of the value of connection. It was a lesson that viewers would carry with them long after the episode aired, and one that Steve himself would never forget. He thought back to the exact moment he had received the message. How small it seemed at first, a video on a phone, a few simple words, but how powerful it had turned out to be. That was the beauty of kindness. It doesn't need to be big to be significant. Steve realized that life is full of these opportunities to make a difference, and he vowed to embrace them whenever they appear. Steve Harvey's experience showed the world that being authentic, showing emotion, and responding with gratitude can create unforgettable moments. It proved that even in a life filled with laughter and entertainment, the moments that touch the heart are the ones that last the longest. His tears on air, his reflective words, and the connection he shared with Keanu Reeves became more than a television story. They became a timeless lesson in empathy, kindness, and the power of genuine human connection. By the time the day ended, Steve felt a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. He knew that this moment, this message, and the reaction it inspired would remain with him forever. And more importantly, he knew that it had reminded millions of people around the world of something essential, that compassion, sincerity, and heartfelt words are what truly connect us as human beings.